Hey guys, Footy Focus Podcast, episode 11. So round 9 review and round 10 preview, recording on 3rd of August, on Monday.
Hey guys,
Jahan has just coughed as well, so that's a worrying sign for all of us.
You didn't hear that because I edited that out, but I'm Shahan and that was Shanika speaking for new listeners, if we're lucky to have any.
Yes, it's a shocking day for our state at the moment. A lot of businesses getting closed down, so we'll try and push on, and at least we got footy to talk about. 7 days
for
a week.
our international listeners. But we'll start talking. Just started the footy frenzy, so exciting. Okay, do you want to kick off then? We might do a review of our games and touch on a couple of key topics from this week, and maybe preview a couple of games. Not tonight's game because there's your game and the Bulldogs play tonight, but maybe later in the week. But we'll kick it off with Port's impressive win over the Demons.
Yeah, so obviously both our teams won this week, so it's a bit fun, the game review. So, Port beat the D's 83-32. So, Port kicked the first 6 goals of the game, and then D's kicked their first goal with a minute left till halftime. So, the game is pretty much done. I thought Wines and Amon set the tone with 11 possessions each in the first quarter. But, I think that the story of the night was probably the D's. Just butchered the ball the whole night, minus 12% in disposals and inside 50 efficiency. And it's probably just the same culprits again. Oliver, Winey. I thought Nathan Jones was pretty good, used the ball pretty well. But, it's the same sort of culprits.
So those culprits are getting the heat put on them sort of weekly lately. Do you think they're too much the same types? Like you're talking about Oliver, Viney, Brayshaw, Jones. Petrarca's got a bit of zip, so he might be the different one.
Yeah.
But do you think they've got too many of those same?
Yeah, I think it's been a problem since 2018 they came third, but it was a pass mark there. But it's definitely the midfield mix. So Nathan Jones is playing on a wing, so they've pushed him kind of out. I think they thought Langdon and the Tomlinson additions would kind of add that mix. Tomlinson's out of the team at the moment. Bennell as well, maybe when he gets a bit of fitness. Pickett probably when he develops a bit more. But, they're just too bull heavy, all of them. Similar.
Yeah, I agree. So the players they're relying on to provide that class and zip. Like Langdon doesn't use the ball that well.
No.
Bennell's a little bit slower than he was, and that's sort of telling now. And, I think Pickett's still young, so you can excuse him. Do you think they should trade one of their midfielders, like trade Brayshaw or Oliver?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think the issue is probably the only guy that's got currency is Oliver. I think Petrarca you've got to keep a hold of, because I think for me, Petrarca and Gawn are the absolute untouchables. Brayshaw has lost his currency because he's not playing. Like he's pretty much playing 50-60% of game time, barely playing on ball. I think he had maybe 11 touches at most. And he was third in the Brownlow too that year when they came. Third.
Yeah, Brayshaw's probably the one you would look at trading because you can't trade Viney, right? He's a captain.
Yeah, you can't trade Viney,
Even though I think he's a free agent unless he signed that I don't know about. But even the currency you're going to get with Brayshaw is probably not that much, especially because of his concussion history.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you follow the NBA, like when you're trying to trade a guy, you kind of play them the whole game just to get their currency up, get them to get more points, rebounds, etc. So, the way they're playing him at the moment doesn't lend itself to. I think you could probably get him at a bargain price. Is what I'm trying to say. You won't be able to get a first rounder or a second rounder for him at the moment, anyway.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But back to Port, what do you think? What were the positives?
Yeah, I think it was just probably the contested ball. So I think it was pretty much first to the ball all night. And I think if you beat Melbourne in that, you're pretty much set because we beat them on the pace on the outside. We're faster than them. 28 uncontested possessions ahead. And I think it summed up as well. Up by 58 points in the last quarter. Robbie Gray, dived on a ball when he probably didn't have any right to, and that was probably summed it up. They're the type of things you look at.
I saw that. Ball was in dispute, and he just went full at it, and then into Salem. winded him, I think. So
Yeah, and obviously we'll touch on Gone as well. So I think Ladham's in that first quarter, 4 frees against, recovered pretty well. We're only -1 in clearances. And we were talking about this the other week with Grundy as well. I mean, you've got a dominant ruck when you're just not winning the clearances at all, let alone winning it by the amount you should. I mean, we'll talk about Nick Nat later, but yeah, they're just not taking advantage of Gawn's dominance at all.
Yeah, I think Gawn's dominant. He's having another good year. It's like statistically he's right up there, but like you said, they're not taking advantage. We'll talk about Nick Nat maybe a bit later, but on the flip side, Nick Nat's the opposite. He's not as big in the stats sheet, but he has maximum effect.
Yeah.
Who was your best one? Was it Darcy Byrne-Jones again?
Yeah, I thought it was Boak. I mean, Byrne-Jones probably gets in the votes, but yeah, Boak 25 touches, 8 clearances and a goal. So he's pretty consistent across the all 4 quarters. Amon and Wines have probably had 2 or 3 good quarters each. So, and Hoff, I think when I mentioned Hoff, I criticised him last week and he stepped up this week. So.
Yeah, and also Georgiades filled in for Marshall really well. So much so he's an rising star nominee for this round. Yeah,
we mentioned him last week. He's always got a pretty crucial role to play without Marshall, and he's just special talent. Great set shot accuracy. Missed a couple he probably should have, but he's just got the body of a probably 4 to 5 year play for an 18-year-old. It's just a credit to the recruiting staff as well, because when he got picked up at 18, I was a bit hesitant. Who's this guy? But missed his last year as well. But he's a freak, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think many people knew about him because he was definitely a bolter. Because he was injured in his 18th year, his final year with a quad injury. So that's probably what gave him the time to build up his upper body. But genuine bolter. And did he go first round or early second? But
it was first round, late first round.
Yeah, a lot of people like the draft experts on Big Footy and stuff. They were like criticizing like the Cal Toomies who had him going to like the Kangaroos, for example, in the second rounder. Just because they wanted someone else that was picked later. And when the draft day comes, you get the bolters and you get the ones that we liked slipping even into the rookie draft. And these keyboard warriors are very critical about that. But this goes to show that you leave it to the experts whose job it is to like follow these guys rather than just criticizing everyone.
Yeah, no, agree there. Last one I wanted to touch on was Dan Houston. I think he's too good to be playing halfback. Rockcliffe obviously played on the weekend, but I don't think you can play Rockcliffe, Wines and Sam Pepper in the same team. So we're playing Pies, Tigers, the Cats in weeks to come. So I think against the better sides, you've got to play Houston in the middle and leave Rockcliffe out because Wines and Pepper are probably the untouchables and they're young too.
Mm-hmm. Now, Pepper's having a good year, so he's doing well. And finally, apart from Travis Boak, who do you think would be an All-Australian for Port? Because you're top of the ladder, you should have a couple of.
Yeah, I think Dixon's probably the lock. Your guy that you mentioned before, Darcy Byrne-Jones, I think he'd be unlucky not to get a back pocket or a half back spot. I think he probably hasn't had a bad game all year.
Yeah, cool. It'll be good to see. Guys like that rewarded for their consistency. Because he hasn't missed many games since debuting, right?
He's missed one, and that's because he turned up late to a recovery session. So I think,
Since debuting, like 4 years ago.
Missed one. I think maybe one with injury, but not missed much. We'll move on to your game. You've had a good win for the first time in 7 weeks.
Yeah, and I think going into it was a bit 50-50, but it just shows you the trouble the Crows are in. So North Melbourne won 119-50. This was on Saturday afternoon. So me and our listeners, Ainsley and Chad, we did a Zoom call during the game, and then we timed the game, so it was we were in sync. But we watched it, the whole game together. So a bit of chat and stuff. So I mean, I don't think Ainsley had a good time, but me and Chad definitely had fun. Watched the Kangaroos kick the highest score of the year, and without Ben Brown. So it shows you, that we do have scoring power, and made us a bit unpredictable going forward as well. So there was multiple. I think there were 11 goal kickers, and I think 5 of them kicked 2 or more. So the story. What did you think the story of the day was?
Yeah, so I think obviously Majak Dor, so first game since 2018 when he was probably All Australian in the squad at least.
Especially the second half of the year, he dominated down back. So yeah, unfortunately, he had that incident afterwards, and then some injury setbacks, and eventually, he made his comeback this week, and he was good. It was good without being dominant. He sort of eased his way back into it. First quarter was a bit quiet, and then he sort of got going in the second quarter when he ran in the ruck, drifted down back, and I think third quarter was a bit quiet, but in the fourth he bobbed up and got on the end of one and kicked a goal, and that was good. Everyone got around him, and I think it was a good moment.
Probably the best moment of the year, and I think you watched Dan McBrayden and Reece Shaw, so they had a pretty powerful interview as well. They've both lost members of their family to suicide, so that's probably must-watch television, the way they spoke about it as well, how proud they were of Majak.
Mm-hmm. And he spoke really well after the game too. He was very proud, and he mentioned his family and everything. So hopefully, he stays on the park, stays fit, and he gets a few more seasons out of Majak because he's an important player.
Yeah. So how was the first ruck, Goldstein?
Yeah, he was good. He was again in the best players on the ground. 8 clearances again, and he's leading the comp, I think, for clearance. So,
yeah, he is. Yeah,
couple of goal assists as well. He was playing against an inexperienced ruckman, but he'd be vying with Nick Nat for AA. Would you say?
Yeah, I reckon Goldstein's had a better year because you've won 3 games for the year now, and West Coast are 6-3. So to play this well in a poorly performing side, I think that probably increases your chances of getting All Australian, in my view, anyway. But
he's been probably more consistent than Nick Nat and even Grundy and Warren this year. So I hope the selectors see it that way, and if Goldie continues, he should be All Australian. But selectors they do like their favourites. So if Goldie drops off a bit and we only win 1 game for the rest of the year, you can easily see him not making it. But let's hope. Other players that were in the best would be Anderson and Luke McDonald. Luke McDonald's having a career best year, off half back. He had 35 touches in a shortened game, which is a career high. And he used the ball pretty well too. He's been known to just bombing it, but I think this week he sort of looked up a bit and he was sort of looking to where he was kicking it rather than just bombing it long. Anderson was took that Cunnington role and was really hard at it. Kicked a good goal and 8 tackles or something. Yeah, so really provided that defensive running as well.
How was Luke Davies-Uniacke, who hasn't played much since he was 4th pick a few years ago?
Yeah, so he's I think he's only played 23 games. This was his 2nd game after coming back from. He had a shoulder recur last year and OP this year, and he was good. He was building, I think. So he had 17 touches and he kicked a couple of goals. I think he kicked the first goal of the game and maybe the last goal of the game as well. His last goal was really good. He took it out of the pack and kicked it on his left, snapped it. So I think we're starting to find a bit more confidence in that second half. So hopefully it continues. Aaron Hall's having a good last month. He kicked a couple, I think, and providing that run.
Speaking of run, what do you think of the Polak omission?
Yeah, I was very surprised. Yes, I think we recorded before the omission. So both Polak and Brown were omitted. Polak, I thought he was close to our best on against Carlton last week, but apparently wasn't doing the defensive stuff. So we made an example and dropped him. So he could come back in. Maybe half of it was sort of managing his injuries, but he could. Maybe because we play again in a couple of nights. So.
Yeah, so he obviously got Teague. He also got 4 coaches, but I think that's probably just Teague because Reece Shaw heard today. Reece Shaw said it was the accumulation of the last month for Polak. So whether he's been doing non-team roles for the month, I don't know. But
but I think I like seeing those big names drop because in Brad Scott's time, he didn't really drop anyone. He usually played poorly. So that's good to see that. And also Ben Brown's, like, you obviously heard about his him and his wife lost one of their unborn twins.
Yeah, one of them. I think there's been so much talk about his form. We've talked about it as well. So it just gives a lot more context to it, and hopefully the media can kind of lay off him, because to go through that and still be playing footy is an achievement in itself, let alone be going through all this stuff off the field.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to players they personalize that they don't want the public to know, or public don't need to know about. There's reason for that dropping form, because your mind's going to be thinking about other stuff, because footy's just a game to the players as well in the end, even though it's their livelihood. But I think some players can compartmentalize that and then play effectively, but some players, when they take to the field, the other personal stuff might get the better of them. So each player is different. So we might see players be more open and admit stuff like this, like even if they say just personal reasons. So Lockie Hunter, like, he did that, and they might put their hand up and not play, because I think they must feel the pressure to like run out there and like not let their team out.
Yeah, 100%. I think. I mean, even Lockie Hunter, he's a vice captain. Ben Brown's all Australian forward pretty much the last 3 years. It's definitely a part of that. But the openness, I think, is a good thing to be. And I mean, you should be worrying about the keyboard warriors. It's more about the people that are human, I guess, that should be worried about. So what do you think about the Crows? They've obviously copped it in the media for their performance. Yeah,
we should touch on them. So this was probably the first full game I watched them play. So they were pretty poor. Like, their defending was just not AFL standard, really. They just allowed too much space and not enough pressure on the ball carrier. Like, you watch this and then you watch Fremantle versus Collingwood, and there was just no room. There was so much pressure everywhere. Whereas for the Crows game, like, you would get the ball and like able to run, able to take a bounce and then kick it to like free player. Like, there was a one point in the game where we kicked it down the middle to a whole couple of steps, and then kicked it to Zoha, and then Zoha just kicked a goal from 50. So it was like a 3-possession kicks, three kicks.
All goal side of the Crows opponents.
So I think it's a combination of inexperience, a new game plan, new coach, the personnel. So you can understand, and they have been competitive for a long time. So I think this might be their first wooden spoon. So that proves they're a proud club, and with their culture, I don't think they'll be there for that long. They'll similar to the Sydneys and the Hawthorns. So they're not going to do what Carlton and Melbourne have done, stay cellar dwellers for years. And they have a good draft hand as well. So they've got pick 1, pick 13 from GWS at the moment, 20, 30, and also 40. They could also have the pick they get for Brad Crouch if he decides to leave.
Yeah, so would that be a pick 2?
Depends what kind of contract he gets offered.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to give him a big enough contract to trigger that pick 2. Because of his age and he's just the player he is, I don't think. But they might get an end of first round, so maybe we pick 20, so they could have 20 and 21. We might talk a little bit about that later. But watching the game, Ainsley noticed that Laird was playing a lot of midfield time.
Yeah.
Which is unusual for him because he's normally down back. So he was still pretty good. He was one of their best. So was Seedsman. O'Brien battled hard against Goldie. He laid 8 tackles, which is pretty impressive for a big man. Otherwise, there weren't that many positives. Hamill was a bit quiet. McAdam was probably their most dangerous forward. Kicked a couple, missed a couple. What do you think they should look for players in the SNAFL? SANFL?
Tongue twister. He's I mean, there's definitely some good talent in the SANFL. A lot of mature age recruits, like Nick Hind on the weekend for the Saints. He's one. There's a few more. I think. Yeah, it's definitely.
Is it Hind? It might be Wilkie. I don't know. It might be Wilkie.
Hind or one of those guys. So it's different. There's definitely options, and I think it's good from a recruiting strategy where you don't need to pay too much. for them. But yeah, it's definitely not a bad option to do.
Yeah, the other advantage is that they're playing. I think pretty sure the state leagues are playing,
Yeah,
whereas
that's
Victoria. So the people that work there, like Adelaide recruiters, can potentially get to the ground and see them firsthand,
Yeah.
whereas Victorians might be restricted.
Yeah.
So that gives them a pretty big advantage over Port to like spot these.
Yeah. It's a good point because obviously the VFL is not going ahead. So these state leagues, you might see a lot more players picked up this season.
And the Victorian teams might not have the money to pay scouts, interstate scouts. So this could potentially be an advantage for those interstate teams. Okay, let's move on to the hot topics. And you want to talk a bit about the league's best player? Do you think he's still the league's best player?
Yeah, I think Dusty still is. He's two out of the three last Norm Smiths. Yeah, 6 goals in a final against Brisbane last year. I think he's just back to his damaging best. He takes a while to wind up, doesn't he? He doesn't. He's not the best player from round one, but when
he's the most damaging player for sure.
Definitely the most impact. So I think the 26 possession is not so much against the Dogs. The 3 goals. And it's like, we've talked about Petrarca and Green being the best player. I think he kind of took that as an insult and, said, the sheriff's back in town like Michael Jordan used to say.
He's just so awesome at those snap hook shots from 45 out.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. No one better. But now it's good to see Dusty back and spot fire again. You think he'll get better as the season rolls on. And Richmond's starting to find that form as well, with a different-looking team.
That's why I'm missing a few.
Yeah, which is testament to their culture and their coaching, I suppose.
Both key forwards aren't performing at the moment too, so if just one of them performs, you can see them rising up pretty quick.
Yeah, like Rewald hasn't done much all year, but they're still doing pretty well. Let's talk a bit about trades, shall we? We might as well finish that Brad Crouch discussion. Adelaide Crows. So Geelong has been seen as a potential home for Brad Crouch. I read an article on the weekend. So he might be a good fit there. They might lose maybe a Selwood. Actually, not Selwood. Ablett.
Yeah, Ablett. I think Ablett said it's his last year on record. So
so they could have the cap space.
And another Brisbane Lions player came back on the weekend and had a good game.
Yeah, Alex Witherton. So you think might be sporty or something, but his first couple of years were very impressive and then couldn't get a look in because guys like Archie, Lester, Birchall filled that halfback role. I think a couple of them are injured. So he got his run, second game for the year, I think, and he scored 170 Supercoach points. This is pretty big. I think it's only second to Martin in this round. 25 possessions, 20 kicks. And 430 meters gained, which is a lot.
It'd be interesting to see if they do play Leicester when he does come back, because Leicester's more of a team role player, whereas Witherton and Birchall, maybe they don't want to play both in the same side because they kind of fulfill the same kind of role. But it'd be interesting to see if they do keep him, and if he does.
What do you think he's worth on the trade market for Witherton?
Definitely a first rounder. I wouldn't say early. I'd probably say late, maybe early second round. What about you?
Yeah, that's probably true. I think he's contracted, so it might depend on that. But I think I'd love to have him at the Kangaroos. Perfect player when you're running off that halfback, especially because I think McMillan's he might have played his last game this week.
Yeah,
he's going back home. He's coming back to Melbourne because he's having a baby.
Yeah, which it's a bit like the Cooley situation where you can completely say fair enough with that. It might give you guys some more time to play young players. So it might be a win-win situation for the club and the player.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see if his reaction after this week's game, if he's emotional or not. So I don't think he's contracted. So we'll see what happens. So it's a pretty big call, leaving when you're like not in contract. So.
Yeah, it's gutsy.
Before we move on, like Adelaide, they've got those picks that I mentioned. Do you think they should trade any of them for like some ready-made players? Because I don't think you should be taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially like 6 top 40 picks into a draft.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing six, if you're picking six, 18-year-olds, you're kind of saying, we're for the next couple of years are just complete rebuild. But if you're going to pick up players, I'd be picking up youngish players. I wouldn't be picking up anyone over say 27, 28, because you want the ready-made players to be there when their next challenge for a flag. You want to pick up a 30-year-old or a 29-year-old who won't be there for the flag.
Yeah, like if they can pick up a Witherden, for example, if they send pick 20 or the compensation for Crouch to Brisbane, that would be a good trade, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool. Do you want to mention a bit about what happened with the AFL journal that was stood down?
Yeah, so it's kind of been trending since last. I kind of didn't believe when I saw it. So AFL journal Mitch Cleary from the AFL Exchange podcast. So he's been stood down indefinitely by the AFL. So he shared Brooke Cotchin's Instagram post, wife of Trent, about the spa she went to. And this was, I guess, after, Caroline Wilson had named her. It was well known that she was the one that's caused the Tigers to get a fine. And I think the AFL's reasoning for that is that he's an employee first and then a journalist second, which is kind of the opposite of what AFL media has been saying for 3 or 4 years. Like, if you look at Damien Barrett, his sliding doors article, like he's not afraid to have a shot at the AFL every week, pretty much, in that article. So he's spoken, I think, since the first time in a couple of hours ago. And Brooke Cotchin, has, to her credit, she said that she doesn't stand by that decision. She disagrees with the AFL. So what do you think about that? I know you haven't heard.
I don't know much about this.
In terms of, you think his obligation is as a journalist first or an employee? That's probably the question.
Okay, right. As an employee, right? Like, they agreed to like not disclose the name, but he went and did it. But he's admitted he did the wrong thing, right? Yeah,
I think the issue I have is that AFL media's kind of said they're separate to the AFL. So, like, if they say if Gillen's made a mistake, they can write an article about that and not get shut down. But maybe the AFL's caved because there's a lot of money on the line. Look, if there's another breach, maybe the Queensland government says, get out of the state. So maybe that's a reason for it. But I thought it was pretty poor treatment of Cleary anyway, because he's one of the best journos out there.
Yeah, it sounded a bit harsh. Yeah, so hopefully it's with pay then.
I'll have to listen to the podcast after this and see what he says. So move on to the Pies. Do you reckon they can win the flag with their current forward structure?
No, I don't think they can. I don't think they'll finish top 4 with it even. At the moment, they've got Mychek, Stevenson, Huskin Elliott, Thomas, and either Cameron or Cox. De Goey's out injured at the moment. And then that's not a very consistent forward line. Like, to be up there with premiership contention, you need to know what you're going to get. I think, like, you know that from like Josh Kennedy and Lynch, these guys, Charlie Cameron. But what do you reckon? Do you think they can rely on these smalls, mediums to keep enough?
Yeah, it's proven that you do need a tall target in finals. I mean, De Goey is probably their best bet, but again, you don't want, game on the line. You can't kick the ball down the line to him. So that, I agree with you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I watched this game, and I also watched the game on Saturday night where Kennedy sort of kicked a couple of late ones and inched the game against Geelong. So you need that. Like, and at the moment the Pies don't have a big tall, like, and like they're missing Pendlebury and a few of their star players, but you could tell they lacked a bit of pass through the midfield. And they probably need Cox to play if they are the challenge.
Yeah, a Cox in form, a Cox that brings the ball to ground though. If he's not bringing the ball to ground, then he's not useful, right?
Yeah, no, he's not. So he's not that consistent, is he? So he's still an experiment, really. Like that game against Richmond might have been one out of the blue. He might never do that again. Should they like trade for a key tool? Like, there's not many out. Jeremy Cameron's a free agent. Ben Brown.
Jeremy Cameron's been the talk for a few years. I think they'll probably go hard at him, but whether they can get.
Don't know if they have the cap space.
Oh, you'd have to trade out players though. You'd have to trade out.
They already traded out James Aish. Remember?
No, I'm talking about like you wouldn't. For me, I think Darcy Moore's untouchable. Maybe a DeGoey. Maybe they let the DeGoey go. That frees up a bit of room. What about Darcy Moore? You think he's the solution? I think he's their best key forward, but he's obviously their best key back as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. They debuted a guy called Mark Keane. He was a bit inexperienced and gave away a couple of free kicks, but if he can show a bit more and they can bring back Roughhead, maybe Scharenberg, then you might have enough that you can send more forward.
Yeah.
That might be the only option, really, because they do have okay defensive stuff.
Roughhead's playing pretty well, but yeah, without Howard, there's a bit less flexibility to do that.
Yeah, you need Scharenberg. And is Lyndon Dunn still in this? I don't know. They might have to.
Yeah, he had the 1 week ban, I think, with Sidebottom when Sidebottom got 4. But yeah, I think he's. I mean, you wouldn't want Scharenberg playing against a monster. You'd rather Dunn.
Yeah. But more to full forward. Yeah, that might be that's a good call. Yeah. This game was pretty good. The pressure was off the charts. They were just having a go at the ball carrier at every opportunity. So it's pretty exciting. The steals weren't as flash, but I thought Luke Ryan was really good. Intercept marks, and he was a general down back. They're holding up well without the 3 of their sort of better key forwards, key defenders not playing. And also, I want to read out this line. So 24 touches, 6 tackles, 14 contested, played in the centre. Who do you think I'm referring to?
Sarong?
He was Sarong. Yeah.
Oh, it's Sarong. Okay, good guess.
Yes, sounded like maybe a Fife or a Brayshaw Mundy, but yeah, this is a 5th gamer or something. He was really impressive.
Even against Dangerfield, he held his own. Dangerfield probably had the better night, but he didn't get embarrassed at all against Dangerfield. So he's had a great probably month. Yeah,
so he was a rising star after that game you speak of. But yeah, this was our pick. I think the pick we had, which we traded. So yeah, he looks good. I think was touted as that Robbie Gray type, but clearly playing more midfield than he's showing something. So if he continues this, he might be a rising star chance because it's wide open.
Yeah.
And Schultz, that small forward, he continues to improve. Taberner is having a career best year. So he was on Keane, so maybe that's why it came up.
And you obviously got Hogan to come back, so it looks pretty scary once you get him and a couple of the key backs when they get a full complement of players.
Yeah, sort of the forgotten man, isn't he? So Hogan, and then you get maybe a defender or 2 back, and Teixeira, Brayshaw's, who else? Yeah. Hayden Young didn't play, so they're pretty exciting. They'll be a good team to watch. And Tobe Watson, what a name, huh?
Job.
They should call him Job or Wisp.
Wisp.
He's got red hair, red Wisp.
Yeah.
He's good. He seems pretty composed, and second game so it was good.
Great win without Walters too, and I think if you thought Walters or Fife were missing, you'd think they're no chance. But they're playing pretty well without their 2 stars. And Fife wasn't best on ground as well. So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so I think they beat Collingwood last year, but Sidebottom was good for them in his game back. Kicked a couple, looked the most dangerous forward, which is not a good sign because you'd want him in the midfield. Okay, cool. We might have run out of time to review. Are you confident about tonight's game against the Bulldogs?
Depends which Bulldogs turn up. Their best is probably top 4. Their worst is bottom 4. So we'll see.
So you think who's going to get Dixon? Who do they have? Keith will get Dixon.
Yeah, I think Keith goes to Dixon. Trengrove probably as a backup option. English and Laddams is probably the key matchup there. Lycett hasn't pulled up, so that's a big matchup too. Because English, again, his best is really good and his worst is, pretty poor.
Mm-hmm. Josh Bruce might look to take advantage because, like you said, your defense isn't the tallest, and they're pretty well organized. So I think, the midfield, again, will be the key. Like, looking at Bont, McRae, taking it up to who do you have, like, Boak, Talpepper?
Boak, Wines, Rockcliffe, but we'll see. I think Bont looks like he'll have a good game. There's no matchup for him probably in the comp.
Yeah. And maybe on our game against Geelong, I'm not too confident. I think it's up to Gabba on Wednesday night. So I think we're both coming off 4-day breaks. Geelong has to fly in from Perth. It probably advantages us a bit. They're a bit older, Geelong, so their older players might take a little bit longer to recover. So, but we're inexperienced, and like half of our teams played less than 25 games.
You'd want Goldstein to take advantage of the Cats like Nick Nat did, so that's probably your advantage.
Yeah, and again, to win in the midfield, because Selwood might be back. They're still missing Ablett. I just see their defense sort of running the ball out a bit too easily, because of our young forward line. Unless Zerhals and Curtis Taylor, they could put on that defensive pressure. I just see, Geelong being too good. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. We'll catch you guys next week, and we'll
Okay, see ya.
Yeah.